This podcast is proudly sponsored by Gyro Drilling. They provide world-class drilling solutions for all types of projects. They specialise in auger, aircore and RC drilling. Head to the team at Gyro Drilling for all your mining needs and see how they can help you with your upcoming project. Hello, I'm Ben Kostrich and this is the Market Bull podcast. Joining me today on the show is Mike Spreadborough, the executive chairman or co-chairman, I should say, of Novo Resources, which is dual listed on the Australian Securities Exchange and the Toronto Stock Exchange. I wanted to say those instead of the acronym in case people didn't know. But yeah, we last spoke just prior to Novo listing on the ASX and a fair bit's happened since then. So welcome back, Mike.
Thanks very much, Ben.
So recapping, this last 12 months would have been quite an exciting and turbulent period of time, more from the markets, but also just, again, being dual listed and all the fun and excitement that comes with that. So just remind listeners a little bit about what Novo Resources is and how this last 12 months has been on the ASX.
Yeah, so if we go back, Novo has had a long history on the TSX focused on the Pilbara, looking for gold. And, the original premise was looking for gold through conglomerates. Well, we've kind of really pivoted away from that. We completed, as you said, the ASX listing in September, and that was really to broaden our base. We're here in West Perth as our base. Our largest tenement package is in the Pilbara. We still have, over 6,000 square kilometres of tenure, so it's huge. And we've got our project in Victoria. So it made sense to move to the ASX. So we have done that now. Somewhere around about 80 to 90 million of our shareholding is on the ASX and trading. The rest is still remaining on the TSX. So we still see good liquidity on both platforms. It's about the same, just a bit of a different style. The ASX process really kicked off us completing the restructuring of Novo. So where we saw ourselves, at the end of December, a pretty good Christmas party, because by then we'd actually sold our Nullagine gold operation, which we'd put into care and maintenance. So that's good. That took the costs out. We didn't see it core business. We didn't see that there was an opportunity to restart and give shareholder value. So it was good to sell that and to clean the balance sheet because of a big rehab. As part of the IPO process, we did a great joint venture deal, which I'm sure we'll talk about later with De Grey. So that was, really seen in that quarter four, De Grey getting into doing some more exploration on our Becher Project. We did a great lithium deal with SQM, the Chilean lithium explorer, developer and producer. So that brought $10 million into the balance sheet. And we kind of matured our relationship with Lightam, which is our other lithium joint venture. So it was a really super big closeout to the year with all of those transactions, cleaning the balance sheet, which meant January we really finally completed the work, which is really good. So where you find us now, end of June, let's say, we've got about $13 million Australian in the bank. So that's unusual for a junior explorer. But we do have this eclectic investment portfolio that's around about $45 million Australian, which we hope to monetize over the next 18 months. So we're in a good position financially. And, we've been executing an exploration program that we plan to do. But importantly, which we should talk about later, we are out there looking for projects.
Okay. Well, we'll circle in first on the De Grey because that's the Becher Project, which I remember when we talked, that was part of the highlight of the IPO was De Grey and Novo Resources exploring this. And for those that are not sure with some of the details, can you just elaborate a bit more on what that project entails, whereabouts it is? And there's a bit of funding coming in from their side, which really helps, as you said, for a exploration company facilitating a lot of that development. Talk us through what's been unfolding with it.
Yeah, so the Becher Project and the joint venture involved 1,000 square kilometres, which is still a huge bit of ground. And we're in the process of forming a joint venture with De Grey. Now, we've had those tenements for a while. Our team late 2022, early 2023, had done enough work to really show that we were seeing similar geological characteristics, mineralogy, vectoring, all those good geological stuff that was similar to what De Grey had seen in Hemi. And Hemi's only 28 kilometres away from Becher. More excitingly, it's only 5 kilometres away from their Whitnall resource and old pit. And that's important because that's what De Grey's talking about as the location for their second production hub. So given the right geology, etc., we understood that we would need to spend a lot of money developing this project up and exploration. And in the end, De Grey came in as a great partner. So not only did they invest in the IPO, but with the joint venture, they're spending $25 million within 4 years to earn 50%. And I talk a lot about that. It's an unusual joint venture because normally you see in the junior space, 70-30s, 80-20s. Well, it was really important to us that we maintained a big chunk of this joint venture. So, we've got 50%. So when the money's spent, obviously, Novo needs to make a choice on whether we continue to invest or whatever else. But location. It's right next to Hemi, 11 million ounce resource, same geology. It is a bit different because, people probably don't appreciate you hear Hemi about 11 million ounces, but it's a big system, and it's a 1.5 gram system. So, you're not going to get 12 grams per tonne in your drill holes. You're going to build a big resource base sitting around 1.5. So that's what we're looking for at Becher. And De Grey have continued that work this year. We put out some results about a month ago. We'll continue to do results as they come through from the work of at Becher by De Grey. And, people don't realise, but they've got 2 rigs there at the moment. We announced that recently. So we actually call them our rigs, because it's part of our exploration program. They're there drilling 2 rigs on our behalf, which is important for Novo shareholders who've got leverage or kind of, some connection to that De Grey work, which is important. And again, I can't emphasize enough locations. So if you do find something and it looks good, no need for a processing plant. It's going to go into production units that De Grey will have produced by then or built. So Becher is exciting. It's great. It's while we're not doing the work, it's our tier 1 project.
Yeah, again, a 50% JV is uncharacteristic for a lot of small caps. Usually it's you get the funding and you almost have to give away the whole body in order to get access to that cash. But that's a strategic sort of decision, and that was predominantly made quite early on with the board and the management, and even having those decisions with De Grey. Clearly they see an interest because, as you said, location, neurology to Hemi, and the potentials for this to expand. Over these next 4 years, how are you guys going to sort of, I guess, develop and continue to grow this joint venture? And you said you've got the drilling program or the drill rigs up there now. When you're talking about when these results and I guess the bigger picture gets painted, what sort of timeline and milestones are you expecting over there?
Yeah, look, it's a bit hard to put a framework, but I think the most important thing is that our geological team have a great relationship with the De Grey team. So, this is a sharing of information. De Grey obviously have got more in-ground knowledge than anyone else in the country on the ground, so that's a good partner. So, look, we'll continue to work with them. And as I said, these are big systems. So this is not, you're not going to get a quick result that's going to spin up straight away. This is a long-term play. It's a good reason for shareholders to hang around for the story because as we saw, De Grey, people forget, it was almost broke and drilled a couple of deep RC holes and bang, here we are. We're looking for the same excitement, but it's not necessarily going to happen, tomorrow night. It'd be terrible to use an analogy, but it's a bit like the Eagles. There's a rebuilding phase for a while, and Becher's like that. It's going to take a while to drill holes and grow the geology and the resource, but you couldn't get a better real estate in Western Australia at the moment.
And you talked importantly about location. Talking about that, you said there's a processing plant and it's close to it, but I mean, that clearly entails that there's a fair bit of infrastructure and almost a community that's already been established out there. So talk about that as well being an importance instead of, as we're seeing a lot of these explorers that go out potentially to the middle of nowhere where everything has to be flown out every handful of days, so to speak. How important is that to separate yourselves from some of the other gold explorers that might be, in the middle of nowhere, politely speaking?
Yeah, well, like other explorers, we've got ground in the Pilbara. We're drilling Nunyerry at the moment, and results will start to flow in, 4 to 5 weeks' time. But that is one of those classic Pilbara projects that it's not super remote, but it's a good 4 hours drive from Karratha on a dirt road, and a 30-kilometre track that we put in for drill rigs. So that's the classic Pilbara project. It's big, territory. As an explorer, it's exciting because you tend to be the first one there and really trying to put the geology. And, credit to De Grey. They've now completed the DFS. Recent announcements show that they're well and truly funded, and they're starting long lead items. So, we, as the Novo shareholders, will be able to, carry on and be pulled along by that infrastructure, which is great. But, so De Grey's building infrastructure, it is a good location for power, water, etc. But, we do have other projects that are exactly like that are exciting, but they are remote, which adds that extra complexity to them.
We'll dive through those other projects. You said at the outset you have a few lithium, but also the gold projects that there'll be a flurry of results and drilling news coming out. Can you just sort of paint the picture of whereabouts those are in the Pilbara? And they're remote, but there's clearly going to be some other players in that somewhat near area, and what have they been doing? And just, discuss a little bit more about those projects. I'm not going to try and say their names.
Yeah, so look, 2024 was really focused for us in the Pilbara on 4 areas. One was to go back to Nunyeri, which we drilled last year, late 2023. We did a fair amount of work post that drilling. We kind of liked the results. We thought the results really, drove us to make a decision to go back there. So we've been back there. People may not remember, but the Pilbara got hit with a lot of rain, kind of late season, and that held up our drilling program. But we finally got there. We're drilling. That program, as I said, will finish up in about 4 weeks' time, and we'll pull the geology together. So that's exciting. The other 3 projects that people will see us move to, the order may change depending on access, but we're still interested in Balla Balla. If you look on our presentations, Balla Balla is this 80 to 100 kilometres of tenure that we've accumulated along the coastline north of Karratha. And you go, well, gee, that's a bit weird. But it's really focused around the Shoal Shear. And if you look at the pictures, De Grey and the Hemi thing is all based on the Mallina Shear, and the shear zone being the conduit for gold mineralisation and driving the thing. So we're the first group that's ever consolidated the Shoal Shear, and we're looking for the same analogy. So again, it's high risk, high reward. It's using the concept that De Grey had around Mallina, around the Shoal Shear. So people will see us eventually get in and do some work in Balla Balla. And again, first order exploration, high risk, who knows what we'll get. The second area you'll see us talk about is we'll be back in our West Pilbara ground. A couple of years ago, we did some drilling on nickel, and that kind of drove that SQM joint venture. It was around Azura's Andover project. So in that area, we'll go back there and do some more drilling focused on gold and copper in that area. We still believe that area has a potential to spin up some reasonable projects. There was already, resources there with Wandoo, Carlo Castle, etc. So there's a lot of smoke. We still remain excited by it, and we'll do some drilling. Whilst it's not necessarily a pure gold focus, we've always got this interest that if we find other commodities on our tenements, let's see if we can drill some holes and develop value for the shareholders. And then the 4th project that people will see us later in the year drill is we'll actually go back to the East Pilbara, kind of eastern of Marble Bar. We've had some tenements there for a long time, and we'll finally get there and drill some early stage scout drilling to really firm up some targets that we've had for a while. So, for Novo, in terms of the Pilbara, we've kind of got, Becher as a tier 1 project. Tier 2 is Nunyeri. Now, again, results will tell us whether there's something there to go into resource drilling, but enough good results to do second phase. And then at the bottom, we've got a good range of, early stage exploration, which is exciting, So, as I said, we still have over 6,000 square kilometres of tenure in the Pilbara. It still remains an exciting area, pushing up surprises in both base metals, lithium, as people know, but also gold. So it's still an exciting area to be.
And then speaking of all these drilling campaigns, does that mean that Novo's sort of advancing with all the discussions with the local communities, and then also the permitting and environmental requirements? Because I know that's a big part of drilling, that if you haven't got some of those sorted in time, then, you're waiting another potentially a few months to get it done. Is that also part of the plan, is that, you may not necessarily have the exact timeline, but all those background tasks still be completed so that if you do go, we're going to spend some money, that's all good to go?
Stakeholder engagement's absolutely critical for us, and in our purpose statement, and you'll see on our website, we recognise the 6 different groups of stakeholders. But for us in the Pilbara, given where we work, the key stakeholder all the time is the traditional owners. And, we generally, given our ground, well, we're working with 4. We work with the Namal in the eastern Pilbara, in the west Pilbara, the Garryara, Injibandi and Nulluma. And we have great relationships with them. They're very, very important to us getting access onto the ground. But access is, it's not really access. It's about understanding what is heritage and cultural significance on the ground. And for us, working with them on how we can go about exploring and also, involving them to make sure that we have respect for their ground. And we have good relationships. It's a key focus on our people. And a bit unusually, we've got someone who works full time on that relationship with the traditional owners, and I think it's absolutely key going forwards. And so, being an explorer, when we talk about sustainability, it's really that traditional owner background. But we do still, as an explorer, produce an annual sustainability report. So you'll see our latest report will come out in September. Obviously a bit smaller, but we still talk about the rehabilitation we do after we drill programs. Our water management is important when you drill, and clearly, working with traditional owners and communities remain important. So just because you're a small explorer doesn't mean you should give away the importance of working sustainably with your work.
And given the land mass that you guys have got, you're going to be working with a whole variety of different groups. And that's where you said at the beginning that another phase that you guys are considering is other projects and looking around and seeing what else is on the horizon. Talk us through that process and a little bit about how this has sort of come about, because we know that there are a lot of projects that are probably struggling given the conditions, but it opens up opportunities for those that have got a cash balance. And you said it was 13 million in the bank, which presents opportunities. So talk us through what's going through the management minds, decisions. Naturally, you can't tell me exactly what it is because that has to come out to the market, but talk me through some of the processes and thoughts.
Yeah, so 2 things is driving our work. We've been in the Pilbara for a long time. People may remember at one stage we had over 14,000 square kilometres of the Pilbara, and that's been our focus for the last 3 years. So, out of that, I would have to say it's been successful. Becher is a success, even though there's not a resource there, and we found targets to keep drilling. But it's now time for us to look at where are the next kind of suite or portfolio of targets that we would like to get into. And again, keeping that focus on gold. We still see gold as a great commodity to go chasing in Australia. And unfortunately, given where the markets are, there are many juniors who've done some good work and haven't been able to advance projects. So we've got a fantastic globally experienced team who can bring that to it, but we also have a reasonable good balance sheet, both in the cash and investments, that we can work with parties, whether it's, purchasing a project or farming in or whatever else. So we're out there looking for the projects. And so, you'll see in Q3, Q4 this year, I think you'll see us do some of those transactions. But it's tough work, There are a lot of projects in Australia, everything from early stage exploration where someone's done 6 or 7 drill holes all the way up to a PFS. If you look at that zone, that's kind of where we're playing at and having a look. And we've got a great team that does a great job, and, we're kind of looking projects that we think add value to the Novo shareholders. I think one of the sad things we're finding is juniors are struggling to get funding. And whilst there are a lot of juniors that call themselves explorers, some of them are really focused on what I call extended brownfields. Their work might be within 150 kilometres of existing processing plant, and that's great. Well, Novo's really more excited about looking at the areas beyond 150 kilometers from an existing processing plant. So real greenfield stuff.
Mm.
And those projects are few and far between. And I think it's a problem we have in the industry, that there's not enough money going into the ground with greenfields exploration and building up. And that's going to be a problem going forward. So it is a challenge when you kind of think of the mid-tier gold companies. They may be doing a lot of brownfields drilling, or as I call it, extended brownfields, up to 150 kilometre from a processing plant. But are they going to areas where, they've got to build the geology from the ground up, looking for discoveries? So that has a big flow-on impact, I think, going forward. So we would like to really fill that gap. There are some other great companies, explorers, that are doing that. Always talk about Encounter Resources. They're doing a great job in, critical metals, non-gold areas in that area. So we'd like to do some of that in gold. But it is hard work. It's hard to find the funding, because I think there is a little bit of movement away from risk investment in the mine industry or explorers across the board.
Yeah, there's really this emergence of, well, what's going to shift, because we hear constantly that resources from, copper, gold, lithium, a whole host of materials are depleting in supplies globally, and that there needs to be new discoveries. And there's this perpetual, as you said, continuation of, well, we'll just keep doing brownfields and then slowly extend the boundaries. But that doesn't bring a massive new world-class discovery online. And that is where greenfield exploration does that. But it's that who's going to bite the bullet first. And if you do find it, that's where it suddenly becomes the next, hot spot that everyone floods to, and the infrastructure comes as well. And that's inevitably what we're slowly progressing to, as we see so many countries become much more pro-mining and exploration. But the funding is the key that needs to come into it. You talked just then about the team, having a global team and a global perspective. And we're based in Perth, and you're in West Perth, and you've got parts in Canada, or the exposure to the TSX. Talk us through the team that you've got, who's involved, what experience they've got, and how they contribute to this organism of Novo Resources.
Yeah, so, we do have a great exploration team that's got international experience. The 3 exploration managers and Kaz DeLuca, who leads them up as GM of exploration, they've all worked overseas. They've all worked in different gold environments, and not just one style, but across the board. And they all will have had exposure to other commodities. So they're able to bring a wealth of knowledge together as we kind of do exploration, but looking for the projects. But, exploration is a multifunctional, discipline. So, we've got, teams that, as I said before, working with the traditional owners on government approvals. Tenement management is huge. We have over 100 tenements. And so managing the tenements and government reporting becomes a key task for us. And for us, data management is really important. So we've got a team that manages all of our exploration data and GIS, and obviously the finance team making sure that we can pay the bills. So, we've got a great exploration team, but we've got a great support group behind it that's making sure we're doing the work safely, working well with stakeholders, and we can achieve our objectives. Exploration is one of those interesting things that sometimes a good result is no result, because I always say to the team, we definitely want to find mineralisation, but it's what decisions we make post our drilling programs. That's the key thing. And you shouldn't be ashamed to say, look, we've done the work, we don't think there's a potential, and walk away. Well, that's a good decision, not to waste shareholders' money. So we've got a team that's very focused on exactly what we're trying to deliver. We're looking for 1 million ounce type projects that have a pathway to deliver, and making those right decisions based on good technical information is what's critical inside of the industry. We all dream of a 10-bagger, and we just keep focusing on that.
And moving forward now, if you come back, we speak in 12 months, and there were certain things that we talked about today that you would have loved people to remember, the key takeaways, as I call them. What were some of those key points that we've just encapsulated, or you've encapsulated in this conversation today, that you think would be really important that investors think about? And as you said, long term, just remember that this is that, again, growth strategy, not just overnight success sort of a story.
Yeah, well, the key for Novo is we are an exploration company. We are going to revolve, might be a bit of a word, or work through portfolios. Just people shouldn't be frightened that Novo drops down a portfolio. It is about the team and about our ability to put that team together and continually work through a whole range of tenements and projects. So people will continue to see that. I'm hoping in 12 months' time, people will have seen that we found some good projects or we've drilled some good projects, and you can see that value. And as I said, sometimes it takes a long time. De Grey was at Hemi for many years before they found the discovery, but they were resilient. And, in exploration, it is like that. It's not like production where you start up and off you go day in, day out. You are continually looking for opportunities and, as I said, making the right decision. So people should see that. And, we've talked about Pilbara, but we can't leave without talking about Victoria. So, we've got our Belltopper project there. We've just completed this year's drilling campaign. We've drilled over 2,000 metres of diamond core. We put the results out. People will see in about 4 to 5 weeks what those results actually mean geologically, but also what does it mean for the pathway on the potential for the project. And, we took over 100% ownership of this project a bit over 18 months, and our team's done a fantastic job. I'm now very excited about what I'm seeing in terms of the geology. I think for the first time, people have got a really good handle on what's happening there, and that only leads to good decisions in terms of drilling and exploration. So people should continually see more updates on the Pilbara, pluses and minuses and how we go. You'll see what we decide to do next with Belltopper, and then, as I said, our project generation project that we're out there looking for opportunities.
So the news flow is going to be quite substantial over the coming 12 months. And as expected for those, they can go to the ASX and the TSX to read the announcements. But where else can investors or listeners follow the company, stay in contact, potentially reach out to you, and really just learn more about the company?
Yeah, definitely. Great. Normal. Grab on the website. We've got our info line there. We always continually do a lot of videos like this one and catch up. And, I think it is an exciting time. Gold price is good. No one is talking about the gold price coming off. There could be different measures of how high it might go, but no one's talking about it dropping off. So I always say that, a good investment portfolio should have a good balance, and you should always have a good gold explorer in your portfolio. And Novo's the pick.
Fantastic. Well, thank you so much, Mike, for speaking with me. Again, there is going to be a lot happening, and I'm looking forward to touching base in the future and seeing what has been progressing and all the evolutions of Novo Resources. But thank you for taking the time to speak with me today on the show.
Yeah, thanks very much, Ben. Always a pleasure.
Thanks for listening to the Market Bull podcast. Please remember that the topics and stocks discussed in this podcast are not financial advice. If you enjoyed this episode, please make sure to like, share, and follow. You can follow the Market Bull on all our socials and keep up to date with global market insights.